Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Seen Beyond and Through with Monty. And today, we're going to conclude part 3 of a 3-part series where I dealt with colorism among men, among women, and today we will touch on it among children. For those of you, thank you and I appreciate you for watching part 1 and dealing with was there light skin privilege among men? And I believe that I proved to you that among men there is no such thing as light skin privilege. Now, part 2 dealt with are light skin or biracial women replacing traditional beautiful black dark skinned women. And what I said was that it was unequivocally no, because I showed you within the business world, entertainment world, that there is still a large representation of dark skinned black women. Now today, we're going to deal with dark skinned black children. Beautiful babies here. As well as light-skinned black children. And beautiful babies here. And what we're going to explore the topic would be, do lighter-skinned black children have a preference? Is there a preference for them over darker-skinned black children? Is there such thing as a light-skin privilege among children? And that unfortunate answer is yes. And I say unfortunate because, having light skin, it doesn't make you any smarter. It doesn't make your children any healthier, any wiser, any nicer. It doesn't give them any type of supernatural powers. But unfortunately, they're given the burden of bearing the insecurities of adults. Because, as we know, colorism is a byproduct and is a child of racism. So within the black community, anything that is closer to white is deemed more accepting. So this is the reason why a lot of times light skin is preferred. And the people who prefer it are people who are not conscious, who are not wise, who have not unshackled the ravages of racism on their mind. Because when I look at these light-skinned children, beautiful as they are, but they're no more beautiful than the darker skinned black children. And we within the black community, we have a job to do. We really do. Because it's such a tragedy that we are putting this burden upon the children. This type of mentality, it hurts the dark-skinned child as well as the light-skinned child. Because what it does, it gives the light-skinned child, let me go first with them, a sense of superiority, a sense of being better, a sense of entitlement that somehow this light skin will get them into doors. And what ends up happening is that as they grow older, these doors are not accessible. Because with my other videos, as I have shown you with the men as well as the women, that this light skin is only a privilege within the black community. And it's more of a privilege when you are younger. But as you start to get into adulthood, and when you step into the white community, the white dominated society, which is going to do most of the hiring, that are in control of, let's say, all the executive jobs. When I say all, well, let's just say I read something that 90% of executive jobs are held by Caucasian people. The light skins are going to see that within a dominant society, there's not a preference for them. That white people do not have the same type of mindset as black people do. And I'm sure that this is going to create some type of a confusion and conflict. And what exactly are we as adults? Since colorism is something that, or this preference towards light skin, is something that we as black people tend to practice. What exactly is the message that we're sending to dark-skinned children? And I also did a video called Stop Damaging the Mind of Dark-Skinned Girls, because that's exactly what we are doing with this sick form of preference that we put upon the children. And this video right here is not to get into this light-skinned, dark-skinned war. It's more to shake us and to wake us up. Because whether we are light-skinned, medium-toned, or dark-skinned, we are all under this global system of racism and white supremacy. So we need to stick together and work together. These dark-skinned children are just as beautiful as the light-skinned children. But we need to teach them that. And we can go a long ways with teaching them that if the parents would start declaring that whether your child is dark-skinned or light-skinned, that all complexions are equally beautiful. But here's the thing that happens. We have too many black people who are going out there in the world getting with other people, other races, for the sole purpose of creating a designer baby, wanting a mixed baby, wanting an exotic baby, and deeming that baby to be more beautiful and acceptable. That's a very sick mindset. And I think it's very sick to use a female, which a lot of them are used. This is the reason why I believe a lot of the relationships with black men and others, or white women and others, do not work out. Because what's first and foremost on their mind is the type of children that they can reproduce. And this, a lot of times, is what they want to reproduce. Because their mind is not yet reproduced. It's not on a higher level. It's still caught up into that notion that anything closer to white is more beautiful or acceptable. So we can drop the selfishness of thinking that somehow a child is special because they have light skin or because they are mixed. And people with dark-skinned children, install pride in them. Let them know that they are just as good, just as beautiful. I mean, looking at this dark skin, this is the original. And we know that God did not make any mistakes. And, oh my God, this baby is just drop dead, just beyond beautiful. So, this will conclude a 3-part series This was my series yesterday about the women. I did one about the men. And I want to go to this right here. Amber Rose speaks on Kodak Black's comments about dark-skinned black women. This makes me really sad, she said. See, it's adults like this who poisons the minds of children, who poisons the minds of dark-skinned people, and who poisons the minds of light-skinned people. Anyone walking away with a superiority complex, your mind is poisoned whether you know it or not. And here's Amber Rose says she's very sad about that. And I want to speak on Amber Rose because she's a mixed-race woman. And she spoke about how growing up, she was led to believe, because of her light skin, that she was better than darker-skinned black people. And she bore that burden. And she stated that it took her a long time to get over that. And God forbid if anyone were to die in that type of conceited state, thinking that somehow you're better. And I think it's foolishness too to think that a skin tone, a lighter skin tone somehow makes you better. You necessarily do not have the education. You may not have the education. You may not have certain skills. You may not have talent. But just because you have light skin, somehow it makes you better. And you know, people, even with her light skin, I want to show you something. Remember when I told you that light-skinned works within the black community? The white community has a different mindset. Amber Rose, with all of her light skin, being a stripper, would never be as big as Dita Von Teese. This is the point that I was making when I pointed to the dark-skinned women and dark-skinned men, about Caucasian people having a different mindset. This will be beautiful within the black community, unfortunately. When I say unfortunately, not because Amber Rose is not beautiful. I'm saying unfortunately because we think of light skin as being better. But within the white community, it would not go over well. Because I believe that when white people do prefer black people, that they prefer them darker than Amber Rose. And let me just say one other thing though. See all those light-skinned babies? Remember, some people believe that somehow that there's a thing called light skin privilege, but light skin privilege stays within the black community because none of those light skinned children within the dominant society would ever be considered beautiful as a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby. To the dominant society, this is the ultimate form of beauty. This is what they deem as beautiful. So this is the reason why I say that light skin privilege only works within the black community. So let us, as a community, work on ourselves. Let us acknowledge our faults and our bad behavior towards shaming darker skin. Let us examine our faults and behaviors for elevating lighter skin. And let us start now having a neutral mindset, recognizing all forms of beauty within our children, whether they are light, whether they are dark, or anything in between. And may God always bless the children. This concludes my 3-part series, and I thank you all very much who watched all 3 and who will watch this one. If you like what you see, subscribe. Always feel free to leave a comment. Just be respectful, whether you agree or disagree. I appreciate you all. And that was another edition of Seen Beyond and Through with Monty, and I will see you beyond and through.